Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Mark Causey. With me is Francesca Maria.
Hello.
We're the co-editors of Black Cat Tales, an anthology of black cats from Black Cat Publishing. This is one of our author chats. With us is Sumiko Saulson.
Hey, Samiko, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to do an introduction for Sumiko. Sumiko is an Elgin Award and Bram Stoker nominated author of The Rat King, a book of dark poetry, as well as a 2024 Bram Stoker finalist for Melancholia, a book of dark poetry. Congrats on that, and good luck
Thank
as
you.
well. Um, Sumiko is also the winner of the Ladies of Horror Readers' Choice Award for the collection Within Me, Without Me, and the Afro Surrealist Writers Award for Bomb of
Brackish water.
Brackish Water. I don't have my reading glasses on. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Their horror romance, Somalia, the Metamorphosis of Flynn
Kahi.
Kehi. Thank you. You're gonna have to read that.
I
To
can't read it
have,
again.
we don't have. We're old people. We don't have reading glasses on. To Happiness and Other Diseases is available on Mocha Memoirs Press. Find their horror comic collection. Ghost Cat is the best cat. I love that title. The Drain, Monster, and Other Tales of Terror on Dookie Zines. And find Sumiko at Sumiko Ska on most socials, at Sumiko Saulson on Instagram, and at www.sumikosaulson.com. Welcome, Sumiko.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're so excited to chat with you about your amazing poem that you contributed to our anthology, Heal Me With Your Purr. If you could tell us a little bit about the poem without giving too much away and the inspiration, that would be great.
Yeah, so cats are known to be able to heal you by actually just purring on you. And this is helps people with stuff like, mending broken bones and just, generally speaking, like when your cats are laying down on you, when you're sick and they're purring and stuff, they're doing stuff to like help you with their energy. But in that, I decided to really take it like a step further and say that cats also probably have to help ferry our souls once we departed and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, like because it's scary and spooky, so I
Mm-hmm.
added a few spooky elements, but I don't want to spoil anything for you. But it's definitely about how really great cats are and how magical they are.
So again, without spoiling it, though I don't know how I can ask this question without spoiling it, I love the character in your poem, Puribus. And I didn't realize, is that an actual character that people have created, or is this something that you originated with?
No, yeah, no. Cerberus is the three-headed
Right.
dog that and I just thought Purvis would be cute because it's a cat,
I love it so
three-headed
much.
cat.
Again, not, this is going to be a spoiler. A bit more merciful and a bit more of a healing than the traditional dog Cerberus.
Right, yeah, exactly. Because the cat is this just there to help you, which they have cat people and dog people, and even though I'm a cat person, I really love dogs,
Yeah,
so I feel like they should be thinking of the dog as more helpful. Like I don't know why they don't, like honestly. So,
it's true.
but yeah, because like our pets help us and stuff. But yeah, no, instead of guarding the shores to make sure that people don't sneak in, the cat is trying to really be helpful.
Love
So,
it. I
I
love
just
it.
want to play. So I wanted to ask about in your bio. You write all sorts of different things in all kinds of styles. Uh, how does your approach to poetry specifically differ from other things that you do, other things that you write?
I mean, I think it's like it's fun that you said that I write a whole bunch of things in different styles because I feel like there's always a theme running through all of them because essentially I am a horror writer, honestly. So when I write science fiction, it is usually pretty dark. And when I write poetry, it tends to be dark as well. And so I would say that I very frequently write about things that are supernatural. It's not always something supernatural, but It really often is. And I feel like someone asked me about my first book of poetry, The Rat King. They're like, well, because they thought it was going to be all cryptids because Rat King,
Mhm.
and it really isn't. And they're like, well, how scary is it? And I said, well, think like Edgar Allan Poe meets Jordan Peele, kind of that vibe.
I love
Um,
it.
yeah, because a lot of times I'm writing about things that are like psychological or political or like, you know, and I think it's because, I grew up with like Outer Limits and like Twilight Zone and all of these things where like there were supernatural like stories, you
Mhm.
know, but ultimately they had something to do with humanity. And so I feel like it always comes back to that. And I think that with my poetry, like a lot of the poems are like little short stories that are encapsulated in the format of a poem. So yeah, and certainly with the one that's in this anthology, and I would say that a good half of the poems that are in the Rat King and, and Melancholia are those types of poems. Maybe even more than half in Melancholia.
Mhm.
Yeah, probably more like 70%.
And how do you know a story is going to turn into a poem or a story? Like, do you start with the idea of I'm going to write a poem, or are you just going to start writing and see which format it takes?
I mean, usually I write poems with the intention of writing a poem.
Yeah.
So most of the time I'm just like, okay, I'm going to write a poem. Like there's a certain emotional resonance that I hit that makes me feel like I need to write a poem.
Hmm.
So it's different than writing a short story. I would say that my novels were something that I hit an emotional resonance that made me feel like I needed to write a novel, and I just sat and wrote novels.
Hmm.
And it's like that with poems. With short stories, it's always super intentional,
Hmm.
and it can be with poems, but poems can be something that I'm emotionally struggling, so I write a poem.
Hmm. Hmm. We were just talking to Allison about how the horror genre has opened up this world for her to express some of the darker demons or the things that we fear. And you mentioning that, you use writing maybe as an emotional outlet, and different types of formats maybe have different types of outlets for you. So
Sure.
I think that's wonderful. And yeah, the horror genre seems to do that for a lot of us. It's kind of our salve for whatever is ailing us in those moments.
And when people read the poem that you have in Black Cat Tales,
Mm,
they will understand why people ask you to
yeah,
write
that's right.
poems for them.
That's right.
It's I enjoyed it tremendously. You have a real talent for it.
Yeah, and especially because in such a short amount of space and time, and 25 lines or less, you've got a character, you've got emotion, and you've created this beautiful world, much like what you do in your other poetry for your collection. Your ability to like convey something so visceral and in a economy of words is just absolutely, it's kind of angering for me as a writer because I can't do that. But it's a pleasure to see how gifted you are in that world.
On the rhyming and
Thank
the
you.
rhythm and everything that
That's
a
right.
reader wants to enjoy about poetry. Like I say, you have a real knack, and it's all in the one that you submitted for our book. So, like I say, I'm sure, like me, the readers are going to really enjoy that.
So, what do you have coming up down the road?
Well, I am working on a third book of poetry, and I've never talked about this in an interview before, but it's a lot more like dark poetry that's very specifically attached to death and romance. Um, and I think it's called Dance of the Necromance Poetry Book of the Dead or something themed, touching on subjects of how love and death can intersect,
Mm,
which, I feel like it's not like my other books are completely not touching on those subjects because
mhm,
that's something that I, emotionally resonate a lot with, which, I'm 57 years old, and I think that death and loss is something that middle-aged people just have to deal with a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to decide that you want to be a survivor at a certain point. Like, you're going to want to live. It's a choice you have to make. And that's not really how it is when you're younger. And I think that people don't tell you that about middle age. Over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, even, there have been so many more of my friends that I've known since I was in my 20s who have passed away.
Mhm.
And, Generation X is like the first generation that our death rates have gotten to be like the first generation of Americans where the life expectancy went down
Mm.
instead of up.
Mm.
And the things that people are dying from are heart disease, but also things like drug overdoses
Yep.
and suicide. It's just a big problem for our generation. And, um, for me, I had to decide that I was going to find a way for me to continue to live and want to live.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so that's probably why I'm writing that particular poetry book.
Yeah, thanks for that. And grief and loss, I feel, are bedfellows with horror writers. I don't think when you think of horror, people think of slashers and monsters, but it's also this deep, deep sense of loss and grief that we need to process in our writing too. And that's a horror kind of subgenre in and of itself. So I'm looking forward to seeing that collection coming out.
Yeah, thank you. You wanted to know about my black cat, Bootsy.
Yes, please.
Right. So Bootsy was a tuxedo cat, so he was mostly black. He wasn't entirely black. But when me and like my fiance that I told you about that died, went down to the local pet shelter, um, every Halloween they have a black cat adoption special.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they had they had a black cat adoption special. And we're like, well, we're two goths. We should get a black cat. That'll be perfect. So I had already decided that it would be in our best interest to get a fully grown cat and not a kitten. So I was not interested in adopting a kitten. Also applied to mostly black cats, because mostly black cats also have trouble getting adopted. So there was a mostly black tuxedo cat, and his shelter name was Oreo, and that has a very derogatory connotation for African Americans. So I'm like, that cannot be this cat's name. Um, so we went to play with him. He was a 2 to 3 year old cat. And as soon as we got in there and we had one of those sticks with a little feather on there and we started playing with this cat was so playful and so cute and so adorable. He had like he he had some like British short hair in him, so he had a little bit of a like a kind of like not a totally squishy face, but a little squishy face, and he had like
Cute.
a little soft, like fuzzy fur. He was so sweet. He was the sweetest cat. In Bootsy, we had two cats, and Bootsy had a tendency to overeat, so he became a chunky cat. Um, he got he got he would have been if he would have not been overweight, he would have been like an 11-pound cat. He got to be like a 16-pound cat pretty fast. This this cat was a cat who snored. So he would get on the bed and snore, and it sounded like there was a whole entire human being in there. Yeah. And he was just the sweetest, nicest cat. He was just really super sweet and affectionate. And so I had him until he was 16 years old.
Oh, very
That's how we got our cat. And the name I changed it to was it was Bootsy Catlins was his name.
much better.
Much better.
Yeah,
Much
Bootsy
better. I
Catlins.
love that. Yeah, they really enrich our lives, don't they?
They really do.
Yeah, and they're everything, and especially black cats. They're just so mysterious, but so wickedly smart and affectionate, and as you said, cuddly and snuggly. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for contributing to Black Cat Tales.
Yes, thank you very
Thank you.
much.